Corey's ethical decision-making model application. In this essay, Corey's ethical decision-making model is applied to describe two chosen cases. The 8-step process of the model is compiled into 3 consecutive stages: problem description and identification, legal information and advice collection, and decision on the course of action. The case of drug-abusing employee. Problem description and identification. Promotion test results have informed a company that there is a high probability that their employee abuses drugs and is a pathological liar. As a result, the company decides not to promote but to fire the worker. The depressed worker refers to an ethical counselor to seek help. First, as an ethical counselor, it is crucial to correctly identify the problem or dilemma. On the one hand, the company acts according to its interests since a drug-abusing employee may cause additional losses and harm its working process. On the other hand, the company's decision to fire the client may be considered unethical. It violates his civil rights to privacy and may act against the ethical code for testing employees. Several issues are involved in the case. First, a business has the right to act in its financial interests. Second, there is a person's right to psychic and general privacy. Additionally, depending on the details, the company may have violated the ethics code for employee assessment by creating and misusing an unfair test. Legal information and advice collection. The next step is to ensure that all the necessary ethics codes, rules, and regulations are reviewed and acknowledged. For this case, the ethical guidelines for privacy and confidentiality are especially relevant since my duty as an ethical counselor is to help the client while respecting his civil rights. In addition, if the test suggestions are accurate, the client's life problems may be connected with drug abuse, which makes the standards of avoiding harm and imposing value useful as well. Regarding relevant laws for consideration, there are the ethical standards that impose responsibility on any social worker to take necessary actions when someone is in danger. Solving the ethical issue continues with obtaining necessary consultations with the law and human rights experts. The goal is to determine if the company has violated human rights and evaluate the possibility for the client to fight for his rights with the organization. Additionally, it seems reasonable to consult mental health and drug abuse specialists if the drug usage contributes to the customer's depressive state. Decision on the course of action. One of the courses of action is to help the client sue the company and ask for compensation. Alternatively, in case the client confirms his drug abusive behavior, I may suggest a recovery course or recommend a specific clinical therapist for him. The last option is limited to providing psychological help and life coaching if none of the above-mentioned options seem optimal. The choice of further actions depends on the additional information revealed during an investigation into the issue. Suppose it is proven that the company has violated civil rights and acted unethically. In that case, the optimal decision is to ensure that the client receives moral compensation or is reinstated in his position in the company. Otherwise, my role in helping the client is limited to improving his mental state and reducing his unhealthy habits if the person agrees to do so. The case of a graduate mental health. Problem description and identification. The second case describes a graduate mental health professional with no competency in career development who is giving interest inventories while she counsels individuals for career issues. As an ethical counselor, I play the role of her colleague, who has witnessed such activity. The case introduces an ethical problem of providing services without the necessary qualifications and knowledge. Such actions violate the ethical standard of boundaries of competence. Moreover, the situation involves causing potential harm to the clients of the unethical colleague and, consequently, applying professional responsibility to me to prevent the inappropriate activity. Legal information and advice collection. There are several ethical and legal standards and laws relevant to the problem. First, the mentioned boundaries of competence prohibit providing unqualified services since they may threaten the client's welfare. The same is true regarding the conduct of assessment and testing regulated by the limits of competence ethical standard. Secondly, The informal resolution code and reporting ethical violations imply that an ethical counselor tries to prevent such actions either in an informal manner or by addressing appropriate authorities. Laws regarding consumer rights may be relevant as well, since the service's quality is threatened by the absence of proper qualifications. External consultation does not seem required for such a case. Decision on the course of action. As an ethical counselor, I am expected to resolve the issue by first contacting the colleague and alerting her about the unethical behavior. The second course of action involves addressing appropriate institutions, like communities of professional ethics, to inform them about my concerns. The decision on whether to formalize or informalize the issue depends on the colleague's response. Initial implementation of the informal option enables to achieve resolution without any severe consequences to the colleague's career and reputation. Such a peaceful solution is why I intend to choose the informal option first. The formal one may threaten the professional future of my colleague, but in case she is ignoring my concerns about her unethical practices, I am required to implement this course of action.